And now we've just gone back to the firefighters in New York after their 7-day detox on a plant-only diet. And the results are in, and it's all very exciting because miraculously all their numbers are looking so much better after a 7-day detox. Like, here is this film going to promote to the world that the future is veganism based on 7 days worth of eating, based on sexual performance after one vegan meal, based on our blood plasma after one vegan meal. Like, I'm just trying to understand. I mean, I'm looking at this very cynically. I totally get that. But there are people who are going to cling to this sort of stuff because they can change the world and improve their health based on all this real science. Like, all of this stuff in this documentary is the real science that those random strangers were hating on me for last week because I don't know anything about real science. And this is the direction they were pointing me to get my information from. I don't know how many of them suggested I needed to watch this movie because it would change my mind. So far, it's bad news. My mind is not wavering. I don't think I was pre-corrupted to a point where I'm not watching this open-minded. I'm just watching this, accepting the way they're distorting everything they're sharing. Because that's what they're doing. So for fear of sharing a little bit of personal information, you know, we're watching Jane Wilkes' story here and the way his father's recovered from a heart attack, and, you know, everything around this is about plant-based. Again, plant-based. Rarely anything has been referred to as vegan. It's nearly all plant-based, whole food, which aligns with a lot of what I say. I'm talking about real food. So, but suggestion of probability of dying if he didn't only eat plants, and the New York Fire Brigade going on about their lower cholesterol and now they're healthy and they're less likely to have a heart attack during their job. You know, my mum and dad are both very fortunate to still be with us here today. And I'm just going to think back. I think it was about 15 years ago. My dad was diagnosed with a stage 4 melanoma. He had surgery. They cut a piece out of his stomach, I guess, below his ribs, nearly the size of a dinner plate to make sure they got it all. And you know, when Dad was a young fella working on the farm, probably in his teens and 20s, he never even wore a shirt. Like, they just used to get around in the King G stubbies, and, you know, he was exposed to a lot of sun back in the day. But that happened 15 years ago, had surgery, you know, skin graft, the whole lot. It's all healed. And he continues to eat meat and full cream dairy to this day. Like, it doesn't seem to have negatively impacted his likelihood of heart disease or cancer, even though that happened. My mum is very fortunate to be with us. Mum had a massive heart attack. Just looking at the time, it was about 9.5 years ago. And she was rushed in an ambulance, and we didn't think she was going to make it. And she was rushed in an ambulance. I told the ambulance to take her to the best hospital. I didn't care. I'll pay the excess. And they took her to Green Slopes. And you know, she spent some time in Green Slopes, but the staff at Green Slopes actually said her heart attack, like of all the heart attack victims they'd seen, and it's a heart specialist hospital, they said she was the worst heart attack victim that they've seen leave the hospital alive. Of course, at the time, she was put onto statins. You're going to die if you don't take these tablets, and blah, blah, blah. And, I'm sure Mum has been more conscious of her health, but she continues to consume meat and dairy to this day. And she had so many side effects from those statins that she actually stopped taking them. She was experiencing muscle pain, joint pain, fatigue, dizziness, brain fog, depression. She actually took herself off the tablets that she was told that would keep her alive 9 years ago. She's still with us. Lots of you guys have been for a farm tour. You get to meet my mum. Every time we have a farm tour, Mum's there hosting. Mum coordinates the farm tours. She's still heavily involved in the family business. And, the correlation, I'm watching this documentary telling everybody that you're going to die from heart attack or cancer if you consume meat and dairy. It's a total fabrication. I just find that incredibly frustrating. That we are comfortable, from Hollywood to throw millions of dollars at a project like this because we can afford to, and mislead the wider community into what is good for their health. Because we, think we're morally and ethically superior, because we now have become enlightened and we know how to not hurt animals on planet Earth by only eating plants. So we are going to lead people to believe that's better for human health, when actually what we're doing is jeopardizing human health in the process. Isn't that sad? I just think that is one of the most selfish motivations, to disrespect and disregard the health of your fellow human in this manner. I haven't quite finished yet. The reason I just talked about that is because we're back into James Wilkes talking about his dad surviving the heart attack, and it's all because he eats plants. And there's so many other people who have the same story of surviving these kind of life-threatening illnesses without only eating plants. I'm just trying to understand the connection here. But you can watch this with a totally biased viewpoint and you'll love what they're telling you because it aligns with what you already thought you believed in. Yeah, they're excited. They're having a birthday meal with the family, and James's dad is just turned 71, so everyone's excited and he's glad to be here. But my mum just turned 71 a couple of weeks ago, and we're all glad she's still here too, by the way. But she turned 71 still eating meat, dairy and eggs. But these guys have gone the vegan route, and that's why he's still here today. There's no question they believe that. And if you're watching this, so should you. You should just believe that. That's the only reason he's still here. He's just a lucky guy, isn't he?
What's up? What's good with?
Well, I must say I'm pretty happy that we did come back to Bruce Lee, because I said right at the start I didn't know if he was going to make a return here but Bruce Lee said the quest for truth is only useful if you are prepared to take action on what you find. Well, that's awesome, Bruce. Thanks for letting us know that. I think most of us actually do that. James has gone down one track here with his idea that eating plants is going to save the world. And I'm pretty happy to share my knowledge, which is the completely flip side of what I've been watching in this mocko here today. Yes, it piqued my interest because, now we're going to look at all the athletes and we're telling everyone that the future is vegan. And Virat Kohli popped up as a vegan athlete. That, you know, they're showing clips of different people. They didn't actually talk to him. So I just had a quick look. I thought, well, when did he turn vegan and how's he performed since he became a vegan? Well, apparently he became a vegan in the middle of 2018. And on his one-day stats, 2019 was his worst one-day average so far. You know, we nearly finished 2019, but it's his worst year since 2015. And his test career stats, 2018 and 2019, have been his worst 2 years since 2015. So, like, it's awesome to say that he's now vegan, and he's a freak. Like, Virat Kohli is a freak. I'm a massive fan of his. And, you know, I think that we look at all the statistics, and him and Steve Smith have been probably the best two batsmen we've seen in Test cricket since the dawn. And, you know, you start to compare them with blokes like Brian Lara and Sachin Tendulkar, maybe Ricky Ponting, but, you know, they're ahead of the field. I'm just saying he turned vegan and his performance has dropped. You know, his Test career average since turning vegan is down by about 16%. So maybe that's valuable information. I know that's happened since they filmed the documentary, but I'm just reading it as I see it. I'm just going to mention a couple here. They showed Venus and Serena Williams, and the vegans have been jumping all over those guys. Serena has admitted publicly she's not a vegan. She's eaten plant-based during tennis season, and then she loves to load up on chicken wings in the off-season. I mean, if you're a for real vegan, you're never, ever, ever going to eat chicken wings. Like, they then showed Novak Djokovic, who's an executive producer of this. Again, massive respect. One of my favourite all-time tennis players. But the poor bloke became a vegan because his wife was a vegan. He broke down to the point where he didn't even qualify for a Grand Slam final while he was a vegan. He went 18 months without even qualifying for a Grand Slam final after winning 13 majors leading up to that point in time. And then his old coach came back in, got to sort your diet out. He started eating seafood and eggs again and proceeded to win 3 of the next 4 majors. So he went from breaking down mentally, couldn't cope, physical injuries, to being the greatest again. And Lewis Hamilton, the most recent addition. Lewis Hamilton has become vegan. He's a race car driver who burns more fossil fuel in his day job than 99.99% of human beings on planet Earth. He owned a private jet. He used to fly around the world in his private jet, but he's going to stop eating animals and make a difference. Well, that's awesome. Good for you, Lewis. Happy days. You've become enlightened. You're going to do some positive things for planet Earth now. And, in case you guys didn't see this recently, Lewis has broken down mentally. He's depressed. He's going to give it all away. It's all pointless since he became a vegan. This is so common amongst people who become vegans. You know, the mental health, the depression and anxiety because of their deprivation of vitamins. You know, they're not getting the animal fats and proteins. There's still some things that science can't explain. You know, I think this is really interesting where people keep telling me to look at the science, and even though that the science can be cherry-picked and it can be manipulated, and then there's real life cause and effect. We can look at the way people are actually experiencing life. And that tells us a lot about what's going on. Oh, cool. And we came back to the Tennessee Titans with 14 blokes on a plant-based diet. Remember, not vegan, plant-based. But I just went through a whole bunch of them earlier that have broken down and retired. So it does appear as though it worked incredibly well in that detox phase, in that initial few months when this was filmed. And most of those players have broken down and retired from their chosen sport. I'm not trying to be smart about this. I'm not smiling because that's good. I think that's sad. I genuinely think it's sad if we see the elite athletes unable to perform and entertain. Because I love sport. I'm a sports tragic. I don't want to see them breaking down and stopping competing at the highest level. So, but these are just things that have progressed since the filming of this documentary that people who watch this particular film might not be aware of. Okay, so I'm all done. We're into the credits. We're closing out now. We've just got a few little clips of people, and there was a link to some recipes. You want to go and make some recipes of vegan food, and I'm curious actually. I might even check out that link. I'm tipping, even though the whole way through the mockumentary they've talked about plant-based, I'll bet all the links are vegan, not plant-based. And then we talk about smoothies, and this is, show these blokes who are built, not like me. I'm not really built. I'm just me. But, one of the things that amuses me when we look at what is being perceived as our capability as humans. We were not built to eat animals. We were not built with our bare hands to be able to catch them and rip them apart and eat them. But were we built to make smoothies with our bare hands? The kales and the kale leaves, the blueberries, the chia seeds. We're just going to put our hand into the jar and turn it into something we can drink? Apparently, that's a relevant point that vegans make often. I hear it a lot. So it's kind of funny. I don't think there's a whole lot of vegans in the world that are raw food vegans. They might be whole food vegans, but they keep going on about the fact that fire, you couldn't eat animals without fire, but nearly all of the vegans cook their vegetables before they eat them. I don't know. Do you guys know many vegans who eat raw potato, raw sweet potato, raw pumpkin? Maybe they exist. So many of these things, just stop and think for a moment. Is it even relevant? I'm not sure. Well, I feel a bit deflated. I've got to the end of this movie. I have not been emotionally moved from my existing position to a new one. I don't feel as though I'm going to stop eating meat, dairy, or eggs anytime soon because I now know a better way. But a lot of people are, aren't they? A lot of people are watching this and saying, that's it. I'm converted. I see the comments. This is why I'm getting smashed on social media, because people know there's a better way and I need to find out the better way myself. I need to see it. I'll understand it and I'll change too. Or maybe I won't. I think my review is going to go for longer than the doco did. So I might actually make a little bit of a comment at the start of my review recommending people don't watch my review because it goes for longer than the Game Changers. But if you think you'll enjoy my review more than the Game Changers, by all means watch my review instead of the Game Changers. I genuinely believe that it should be called the Game Enders because, as I said, nearly all the people featured in this movie broke down. They had career-ending injuries as vegans or even as plant-based people. It's like they were plant-based. They weren't even vegan. They were eating animal products like dairy and eggs. A number of people featured here were eating animal products, and it was never mentioned in the duration of this entire film, which went for, I don't know, an hour and a half. That's kind of interesting, isn't it? You'd think that might be relevant information. Of course, I know there'll be people watch this and they're going to be really happy to bash me again. I'm used to being bashed these days. I'm used to being victimized. They're going to look at me and say I look so unhealthy. I'm fat. I'm going to die soon because of my diet. Look at my skin. Look at my face. I can tell by looking myself it's very red. And maybe that's partially genetics. Maybe partially the reason my face is red is because my ancestors were from England, Ireland, and Scotland, and we just happened to land here in Australia in a subtropical climate. And I've been out and about running around earlier today, and yes, I probably should have stayed in Ireland. I got to visit Ireland earlier this year, and I think that climate is much more suited to my skin than Australia. But whatever. I'm going to let people judge me however they choose to, however they see fit. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. I actually sleep really well at night. I think that's partially because of my animal-based diet that I sleep so well. And I probably don't have to, suffer from the anxiety attacks that people who only eat plants do. And I don't have to go running to the loo with diarrhea 6 times a day, as so many vegans have shared their experience when they recovered from only eating plants and drinking copious amounts of fluid. You just don't get quite as thirsty when you eat animal products. They're much more satiating. They fill you up. So anyway, I'm sure I've spoken for long enough. I'm going to check out right now, guys. You can watch this in installments if you want to. If it's you don't have enough time, you can have a bit of a listen and check out. Come back whenever you want. I'll look at taking on board feedback and happy to have a chat. If anyone has any thoughts or comments, I will endeavour to get back to you. Cheers, guys, and keep eating animal products because I'm going to.